Yes. So, welcome everyone again. So, this is our second town hall on risk management and safe sport. I wanted to thank Volleyball Canada, Caroline Sharp, the director for the Safe Sport Officer for Canada, and Julie Young, also for their Safe Sport Coordinator for Volleyball Canada, have joined us. So, thank you so much for joining us. And Lee Pearson from our board is also in attendance. We did have some other staff that may jump in later, and some that were hoping to make it, but then had some emergencies that they weren't able to join us tonight. So here I am. It's Joanne from the Ontario Volleyball. So I want to just get rolling a bit because we do have a lot of material to cover. So I am assuming I am thumbs up on the screen sharing. Our agenda tonight is the Volleyball Canada is providing us with our update. We wanted to go through a bit of our Rule of Two reminders and also give you the opportunity to ask any questions, just in case you have any pertaining to some of the safe sport codes of conducts and rules and UCCMS. And we've also just had an overall code of conduct reminder. We are only in like our first 3 or 4 weeks of competition, and we've already had some issues at some sites. So we just wanted to share a bit of what's going on and your help that we need for that. And our next meeting will be in 2024. So without further ado, we're going to get into our VC group, who Caroline and Julie have joined us. And we've just got into your presentation here, Caroline, so take it away.
Okay, great. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, perfect. So I'm just going to give you an overview on Safe Sport and about our collaboration with Ontario Volleyball Association in terms of all of our Safe Sport programming. So I'll move on to the next slide. So I'll start with an overview of year one. So we started with abuse-free sport. We're one of the first sports to sign on, and that was in June of 2022. Every national sport organization is now required to be on, and they've all signed on in order to receive funding. But Volleyball Canada was the first national sport organization to sign on right at the start in June 2022. We're also different from most national sport organizations because we're signed on as a sport, not just at the national level, but we're also part of abuse-free sport from a provincial level and a club level. So we're the first system-wide, and I'll talk a little bit more about that after. So in that first year, we have some statistics from the Canadian Sport Helpline, and basically we had 486 calls to that, clients were helped through that helpline and in that first year. So I'm giving you some overviews, and the most reported topics were bullying, abusive power, discrimination, psychological abuse, and verbal abuse. And in terms of where these came from and who called, it was club level was 41% and provincial level 22%, and then it goes down from there. In other, it's probably mostly that 16% is probably the school system, which unfortunately is not under our abuse-free sport programming because it's not part of our membership. Yep, next slide. So in terms of what kinds of claims went through abuse-free sport, there were 66 complaints in that 1 year. And that's of all organizations, and I'll go into volleyball specific shortly, but we're a big part of that. And the respondent, that's who the complaints were against. That gives you kind of the role of the complaints were against coaches 40% of the time, board members 17% of the time, athletes 16 and 15 for admin, referees 6, and a few others within there. And the abuses that were alleged abuses or violations were most often in these top 5: psychological maltreatment, sexual maltreatment, boundary transgressions, physical maltreatment, and discrimination. Those were the 5 most popular alleged violations of UCCMS. And just to clarify, UCCMS is the universal code of conduct that we all must abide by for maltreatment in sport. So Volleyball Canada year one, I remember I noted it was like 66 cases or so. 47 of them were volleyball complaints. And the reason that is, again, is we were first in the system, and we're system wide. It's just not national at the national team level like some other sports are. So we had 47 cases, and of them, 10 were national level, and the rest were at the club and provincial territorial level. And when I say national level, it means like a complaint could have been at a national championship or against a national level referee. It's not just national team. So in terms of policies, and this is a big part of how we're able to be part of abuse-free sport as a system, is we have pan-Canadian safe sport policies. That means that our provincial territorial associations in Volleyball Canada are all UCCMS compliant, have UCCMS compliant policies, and we work by the same policies. And we're one of the few national sport organizations that do that. And that enabled us to sign on as a group, as a sport with abuse-free sport. Others want to do that, but they're still working on their alignment with their provincial territorial associations. Another key feature that we have is I have trouble saying this, reciprocation policy. It's a reciprocity, is meaning that we enforce, it's a national enforcement and recognition of sanctions. So if a province sanctions a member, we recognize it at the national level and vice versa. And everyone must be UCCMS compliant as part of our membership, and that goes across sports. And it's really important because it has liability implications if we're not compliant. And there are some sports that have gone through some serious lawsuits related to the fact that in insurance claims because they are not compliant to UCCMS. So everyone's required to be now as part of to receive funding. So we're kind of a sport leader in this alignment. We're the only ones, as I said, to have these aligned policies and complaint processes. So the complaint process overview, I just want to give you a quick overview. All complaints should be and directed to the Abuse-Free Sport Helpline. It's just been rebranded. It used to be called the Canadian Sport Helpline, but now it's Abuse-Free Sport Helpline, same numbers. It's anonymous, confidential, independent, and it's in both languages, official languages, and you can do it by phone, by text, and by email. So this is what you should be providing to members, and this is the only place where the claim should go. Sometimes we receive them, receive calls as a safe sport officers with Volleyball Canada, and this is where we will help and direct people to make their claims, and the same would happen at the OVA level. They would help and assist in making sure this claim is submitted, but we're not required in that process. But we, independent, doing it independently is suggested, but if there is help needed, the safe sport officers can help and maintain confidentiality. Once it gets to OSIC, it's quite a process. And if you go to their website, they have some really great interactive flow charts. This is the full flow chart, but you can pick sections and it'll tell you what happens in the next step. It's a complex system. It's like the court of law. A claim comes in, it's assessed. Is it fall under abuse-free sport? Is it maltreatment and abuse? And if yes, then it continues. Then it does it go for investigation or does it go to mediation? And so there's processes all the way through until the sanction happens, and there's also appeal opportunities throughout as well. So it's a fairly complex system, but it's well explained on the website, and we can also help kind of explain that. But it's like the court of law, and it can take a period of time to go through properly. So that's what I would have to say about that. In terms of touch points in this communication process, if you want to hit the next one, what would happen is one of the first things is they verify membership, because you have to be a member to be able to go through the abuse-free sport process. So right now that's done through the NSO. And then eventually in 2024, all registered members from all organizations will have to sign the informed member consent form directly with OSIC. And how that will work, we're not sure yet. but we will only transition to this new platform in the new registration year. So there's time for us to figure that out. In terms of communication, when there's a complaint going through, the complainant communication goes to the complainant, the person putting forward the complaint, and the respondent, the person who's accused of the complaint. Outside of that, as organizations, the only information we have is if there's a decision to impose some provisional measures, and that would be like there's an assessment risk, and they might say this person is suspended on an interim basis from coaching youth, for instance, or or there's a decision and a finding in an investigation. We're informed of that. So that might be, oh, there was a finding, this person is suspended now on an interim basis. Or there's the final one is if there's an outcome through the sanction. And that's though we receive a report, and these are the only points of communication that we have from OSIC with regards to cases that go through their system. You want to go to the next slide? So how does it work? Well, we verify the membership status, and if a complaint comes in, it does not mean that a case will be open when they verify membership. It just means that a complaint or report has been filed. And when we receive any provisional measures or sanctions reports, we communicate with a provincial territorial association safe sport representative, so the OVA in this case, who would then circulate it to the club as well, if applicable in the case. And then those measures are added to our member sanction list, and it's circulated to all our provinces and territories. And that member and sanction will also appear on the abuse-free sport registry, which I'll talk about next. So it's a national registry. It exists right now. It's not open to everyone yet because it's still, privacy laws are very complex, and they're working through that. The expectation is that the registry will be public by the end of March 2024. So right now, Volleyball Canada has access to, as safe sport officers, to this registry, and we share this information with our our provinces and territories. So as of November 24th, we have 13 members listed on that registry. 12 are with provisional measures, and 1 is a permanent ineligibility. And these individuals are added to the registry, and it's circulated to PTAs when new members are added. And also sometimes people come off that registry as well once the case is completed. So I'll just tell you challenges and successes in year 1. The challenges, again, like as I mentioned, complaints they should be filed directly with safe sport officers, so it's difficult to maintain privacy. One of the biggest reasons for that is the reason people don't file complaints is their fear of retaliation or repercussions, playing time or not being part of the team for all those types of things are reasons why people don't file. Yet often going to the safe sport officer or to OSIC ensures privacy, whereas often people will still talk to a number of people before it gets through to the system. So that's something we want to always encourage, is just to file directly. That lack of information sometimes from OSIC in terms of us as, is sometimes challenging, and also for complainants because, they don't feel that they're part of every, it's fast enough. It seems to be very slow, and cases take quite a long time to complete. And we've had a few cases where sanctions appear to have been too lenient. I'm being very upfront here. So those are being challenged, and I think will be assessed over time. And really, it's a lot more resources are needed for safe sport requirements, and it's unfortunate it takes so many resources to manage for provinces and clubs. Successes, though, there are some, and awareness of the complaint mechanism is increasing, and we're reporting to OSIC It's system-wide. We're tackling the issue at all levels. And while we're not perfect, we're certainly so well aligned with our provincial territorial associations. And the costs in this are, you know, unfortunately, there are costs, but any independent third party is very costly, and so far they're very reasonable. So I'm going to give you an example of a safe sport case, so you see in action kind of what a bad safe sport case can do to what some of the results are. So in this case, you've probably heard it. This is all in the news, so I'm not telling you anything. Those are headlines in the news. We had a case of a volleyball member um, that's now been charged with sexual assault. Um, this Marcus Hicks was a teacher, a volleyball coach in a club, um, and also a national level referee. So this person was very much within our volleyball system, and a lot of people knew this person. Go to the next slide. I'll show you the timelines of what happened here. So in August, the Newfoundland Labrador Volleyball Association received a complaint, consulted with Volleyball Canada, who advised them to file a complaint with OZIC, and due to the nature of complaint, also contact the police. So police were contacted. August 23rd, 25th, it was filed with OSIC. So OSIC and the police would, behind the scenes, would probably be communicating. On September 6th, Hicks was arrested and charged with 1 count of sexual assault. And by the 12th, 5 additional charges were laid against him. By September 15th, membership was suspended with Volleyball Canada and circulated to our provinces, and OSIC suspended Abuse Free Sport provisionally suspended him as well, October 6th. And now, November 8th, a total of 92 charges involving 14 survivors that's what charges were laid against, and he's in custody and awaiting court trial for date. So it went from one case that was, yeah, you can keep it there. It was one case that came to light, resulted in a very short timeline in, rooting out a very bad situation. So there were really some key learnings here. By following the safe sport protocols, and LVA helped bring this case to the authorities. I mean, they don't, but really they did. They brought the case to the authorities. As soon as they had a complaint, they brought it forward. It was one complaint, and it led to everything that you see that I've just explained. The focus of the media attention, while not great on volleyball, on any of it, is on the case, but not on the association or its handling of the situation. Very unlike what you would have seen with Hockey Canada or some other incidents that you saw in the news. The staff are working closely with the authorities who are managing the case, and LVA, they'll reach out for help when they need, and they needed help with communications and counseling support. So those are things that we tried to work together on. But the situation was extremely stressful on the staff members. While the community, was sympathetic, they really wanted business as usual. But yet, while they wanted business as usual, there were lots of questions at events, creating distractions and stress. Media showing up at events, it can really affect an organization greatly. And the government was not prepared. Their sport government was not prepared for this type of thing. So in terms of crisis management, there was not much support provided to them, unfortunately. So at this point in time, things are getting back to normal, but it's a good example of just how quickly these things can escalate, what can happen. But if managed, well from you can help root out, these kinds of safe sport issues within our community. So PIA, person in authority, we love acronyms, I'm sorry, should have written that completely out. So PIA is person in authority requirements. We've had some changes to our approach with that this year, and what that is if you go to the next slide, we're And for members to be approved, they need to have their disclosure form, background check, and safe sport training on file. It's going to be cumbersome in this first year and start of season, but once, in terms of disclosure forms are annual, but background checks and safe sport training are not. And so once that's in there, it should be a little bit easier to manage moving forward, but it'll be a very difficult process this year. Unfortunately, IT is not caught up to it's a little onerous on our staff and provincial territorial associations. So we're hoping to make some improvements and provide some investment in the area to make the tracking easier for everybody. Now, you maybe have heard we are doing a Safe Sport for Youth education tool. It's lacking right now. The tools that exist are for adults. And so we've been, if you move to the next slide, we've partnered with athletics and swimming, and through a fund by the Canadian Olympic Committee. We've been working on this for a year. We have a series of short videos on a variety of safe sport topics. The host is alpine skier Alison Forsyth, an abuse survivor. These videos will be free of charge, and our goal is to launch mid-January to late January. And there's a certificate of completion and tracking tools available for us in the 3 sports. And eventually, there's a lot of interest in the sport community, and we'll phase 2 of the project will let other sports use the tool as well. And if I'm able to, I could run a sample. This is just some branding. We're moving towards the branding. It'll be called Safe Sport Education for Youth. Are you able to access that one?
Yeah, you want me
If
just
not,
try to open this here,
yeah.
or you? Okay.
Yeah, you can try and open it there, or I can share my screen, whichever you like.
It might not be fast.
Okay. Do you want to just share my screen, or?
Is this changing?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, if you just hit the one with her there, yeah. That one, yeah. Now this is draft, just so you know, we're still working on it, but this will explain, this is the introductory explanation to the video. So, is there volume? Do you hear it? No. I don't know if you can unmute or something.
So you're not hearing any sound?
No.
I need my Zoom people. There is something I need to do. Shoot. Sorry about that. One moment.
That's okay. And if we're not able to, that's okay.
We'll send the link. Oh, I guess you don't want to share the link, right?
No.
If I can just add some assistance here. So if you stop sharing your screen.
Yes, please do.
So just stop. And then when you go to share your screen, you're going to click a button that says share sound. There's a button. So just do a stop share for a second.
It didn't stop share yet?
No, I can still see it.
Okay. One moment.
There we go.
Okay.
So then when you go to share screen, there's a little button that says share sound at the bottom left corner. You'll click that.
I got it. Okay.
And then you can do sound.
Retry. Here we go.
Let's start her over.
Here we go. Give me the thumbs up.
Hi, and welcome to the Safe Sport for Youth educational video series. Now, we designed this education specifically for competitive athletes between the ages of 13 and 19. But of course, any athlete's welcome to view and learn. These videos are brought to you by the national sports organizations of swimming, volleyball, and athletics, which is why you will see some cool videos of athletes in those sports doing their thing. Now, before you watch, we do recommend that you chat with a parent or guardian. This information can be challenging, as I will be talking about maltreatment in sport. And this could bring up some emotions. So please take care of yourself and reach out and talk to someone if you need help. Here's the thing. All athletes in sport are entitled to a safe and inclusive environment free of maltreatment. So it's our aim to provide you with more awareness and education on what safe sport means, help you identify the forms of maltreatment in sport, and give you examples and tools to make your sport experience a safe and positive one. So who am I? Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Allison Forsyth. I'm a 2-time Olympian, an 8-time Canadian champion in the sport of alpine skiing, and I am a survivor of sexual abuse within sport. So obviously, I am incredibly passionate about safe sport based on my own lived experience, and I love sport. And I know you love sport too. So I am so looking forward to sharing with you the education that an incredible group of experts and I feel is important for your journey in sport. So here we go. Couple things I want to ask of you before we start. 1, please pay attention. I know that's not always easy, but we specifically made these videos very short and packed full of really important information. And 2, you're going to watch them in order. We're going to make sure you watch them in order. Because the next video will not unlock until you've watched the previous one. And once you've watched them all and ultimately taken away a good dose of education, you will receive a certificate of completion right back into that inbox where you signed up through email with us. I really am grateful to be able to give you this opportunity to learn, and I hope you have the most awesome experience in sport.
Great. So that is it's still in production. That's a rough cut. That's a rough cut. There's still some work to be done, but I just wanted to give you a sense of what that explains kind of what the video is and what the process is. So I just gave you a sneak peek. Joanne, do you want me to answer any questions now or at the end?
Yeah, I think if there's any questions for Caroline or Julie, please drop them into the chat. I do have one question that came to me, Caroline, and it was around can anonymous complaints be filed?
No, I guess the short answer is no. It's like the court of law. You can't sue someone anonymously. So you have to think of the system similar to the system of law. It's exactly, the same principles apply. So someone who's being accused of something always has the right to know the accuser, that there are privacy rules in place. So there are repercussions for the respondent, and that's the person being accused, should they violate those privacy requirements. And so that enforcement of the privacy is the main issue that that OSIC has to work with, and we have to work with and report if it's been violated.
So if someone does, if they are too fearful to report, could they report it to the OVA, and the OVA could report the incident to OSIC just to see if there's the potential that there may be other cases involved? Or
Yes.
there's there
Yes.
to be part of an investigation. Okay.
Correct. So there are two things. There are complaints and there are reports. And the complaints is an actual complaint submitted. You can also file a report, and a report can be is just so that OSIC is aware, and they might follow up on it regardless. If they have enough information, they might decide to pursue, or they will file the information and maintain it should other in case this comes forward in the future.
Thank you. If a question does come up, please drop it in. We're going to talk through some of the other policies and some pieces, but something to keep in mind is just our duty to report from our administration rules. So being leaders in the sport, we do have, even if there's an incident and you may not have all the details, we still have that duty to report. And as Caroline presented on that slide, you can enter it into the intake online. You can call the hotline, but those are, or text, but those are the ways. It's nice that you can file a report and keep records, so you do know that you filed it, because you do have that duty to do that as well. So Caroline and Julie, feel free to stay on. We're just going to talk a bit more about We did want to cover off the rule of two. There's some information on Volleyball Canada's website and our own. OVA, as Caroline mentioned, that the policies are pan-Canadian. So we do have the OVA abuse policy, which is the pan-Canadian, is also the person in authority code of conduct. We wanted to make sure we kept our names in sync because previously we had the person in authority code of conduct. And then when the pan-Canadian policies came in, it was called the abuse policy, but those are actually, that's how we synced them up. So that's where you find all the different rules relating to the rule 2 and the communication. That is found under our policies on the website and under a section here under there's links in here, ontariovolleyball.org, the PIA, as Caroline said, we have lots of acronyms. And the persons in authority are not just the coaches, it's also all of the administrators, all of us here are club leaders. So if you're a manager, a supervisor, a technical director in a club, the support staff, potential contractors that you have working closely with athletes as well. From that, I had a video to bring back up as well that is actually on our website. But I did want to bring it back. It had some very good explains the rule of 2 along with grooming. And it's something that I want you to really keep in mind as the club leaders. Some things, what we are really finding is that the parents don't realize what the rules are. So we may be well versed in our rules, but the parents aren't. And so that also leads a huge gap to our responsibility as being that leader in the space, is that the families that we service, the members that we have, we do need to support their education. And as Caroline said, there's going to be some videos and stuff for the athletes, which is going to be super helpful. But we also have this video. Actually, Alison Forsyth also was involved in this one around it. So have a look. I don't think I should have to share my thing again. So if you give me a thumbs up, though, if you can hear.
When the news came out for me, I couldn't believe it. This is something that you hear and you read about and you see on TV, or you.
Sorry, I don't know what I've done to not be able to get the full screen. As you can see, I don't have my technical people here today, so I'm going to back up for a minute. There we go.
When the news came out for me, I couldn't believe it. This is something that you hear and you read about and you see on TV, or you see a documentary on. And this is happening in our city, to our town, to our team, and now to a player on this team. Unbelievable. You should have seen the faces of the girls. It was devastating to them. It was the saddest thing I've ever attended. The emotion of looking at these innocent girls sitting there and seeing all of the trust that they had placed in this man and as a team, and the parents, it was like a funeral. Their faces were stark white. No one could understand why this would have happened. It was awful. It was terrible.
I'm Greg Gilhooly. I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I live just outside of Toronto now. Well, it's interesting. As easy as sports came to me, school was even easier. Life just came easy. So from the outside, I looked like I was a success, but on the inside, things were very different. Well, Graham James was a larger-than-life figure in Winnipeg hockey circles. When I talked to Graham, he was incredibly nice. He was incredibly supportive. This is the first time I'm talking to Graham. He said very good things about me as a person and me as a hockey player. And he said that he'd been watching me for a while, and that when we get back to Winnipeg, we should get together. And he said, but don't tell your coaches and don't tell your parents. He didn't want, he said, my coaches to think that someone was interfering in my hockey development or with their team, and he didn't want my dad to know because it would make its way back to my coaches. After one of our sessions, I was clearly tired, and Graham said to me, he said, look, you know, when you think about a hockey player, you have to have incredibly strong feet because the feet effectively coordinate everything from the brain, the core, the leg muscles to the blades. Can I take a look at your feet? And he took a look at them, and he liked what he saw. And so the barrier was broken, and foot massages after our workouts to massage the feet because they were so integral to how the body moves. Graham started massaging my feet after our workouts. How did my life change? It got really bad. I would try to explain to myself why I kept going back to him. And I would negotiate with myself, and I would debate against myself, and I would tell myself time and time again that someone who thought so much of me, who wanted so much for me, must clearly just not understand what's going on and how he's hurting me, that I'm not really wanting to do what he's wanting to do. I felt trapped mentally, emotionally. I had no way out. I certainly needed to run to somebody at that time. I certainly needed to tell somebody at that time. Problem is, the way that the grooming had worked, and I didn't know it was grooming at the time, and I certainly wasn't labeling it as grooming, but all I knew, I needed to tell somebody, but by that time, the only person I could tell was Graham.
My name's Alison Forsyth. I'm currently from Oakville, Ontario, originally from Vancouver Island, BC. My sport is alpine skiing, ski racing. Those of us that do it call it ski racing usually. So I've obviously thought about this a lot. When I first met him, he was not my coach. He was the coach of the Quebec ski team at the time. He was, as a person, how he showed up was extremely charismatic and confident. He knew what he was doing. He knew how to manipulate, talk the talk, make himself so powerful. I suddenly became the girl that he started to groom, pay more attention to, start to tell me things about my body, what he liked, what he think I needed to look like to ski faster. So there's promises you make if you stay with an abuser that are made to you that makes you feel, I felt complicit in it, like I felt responsible. And then there's the other side of what's going to happen to me if I don't stay with this person. He threatened to commit suicide. He said his family was going to kill him. I know now it sounds weird to say like my dad's going to kill me, but at the time I believed it. I tried to get away from him so many times that it became easier in my brain to stay with him than to leave.
My name is Stacey Ditchfield, and I am the parent of a player whose teammate was sexually abused by a coach. Moving into her going to the first tryout, it was all positive. I had never heard anything negative. There were many promises that were made to her by this coach, just beginning with, if you continue training, if you continue developing, if you stick with me, I will be able to give you exposure to the NCAA coaches. So the promises of what was going to happen in the years to come was always set at the forefront.
It's a myth if people feel like athletes tell their parents everything. It is a myth. I was 14, 15 when I left home. I felt like I grew up overnight. To be honest, for me, the last people I would have told would have been my parents, because I feel like I didn't want to let them down. People that work for organizations, people in power, people in authority, it's quite simple. Don't take the job unless you're willing to take this on as part of it. Don't work for an organization that is in the sporting world that deals with children, that deals with athletes who are representing your country, and not be willing to do everything it takes to protect them and create a safe sport environment for them.
absolutely organizations have an obligation to create and foster an awareness that these things can happen, and they have an affirmative obligation, or should have an affirmative obligation, to implement rules to ensure as best as possible that it won't happen. My case is interesting in that Graham never coached me directly. I never lived with Graham. Graham was simply a mentor. He used his position within a sports organization to foster his ability to groom me. If you're an adult out there and you see something odd happening, again, don't be afraid to intervene. Truly do not be afraid to intervene.
So the rule of two is very simple, and a lot of people may think that, well, that doesn't prevent a coach from texting an athlete. But I can tell you, if you're not ever alone with that athlete in a conducive environment for something to happen, nothing will happen. So you need to keep a professionalism between the athlete and the coach. That's number one. And it's protecting the coach too. That's the thing, is people think the rule of two is about the athlete. Coaches need to figure out the rule of two is to protect them as well.
A lot of these coaches aren't paid. They do it because they love it, and now they've been grouped into this one bad incident. So for the rule of two, it protects them, and it allows them to be themselves, and it allows them to develop those players in a safe environment. And proactively moving forward, everybody should be aware of it.
All three of my children are going to go through sport, and I was sexually abused in the sports system. Because I have an awareness, I have a commitment to keeping them safe. I still have trust in coaches. I'm just smarter. I'm smarter in that I ask critical questions. I don't put my child into a sport that I don't know there's trust. As I mentioned, as an athlete, as a coach, as an administrator, take this stuff seriously. I would have given back every medal I ever won to have prevented this from happening to me. You have it all, like have everything, you know? So kids don't want to win that bad. And we need to understand that they don't want to win that bad to have this kind of stuff happen to them. This is not about sport and about anyone. It's not about you, whoever you are watching this video, whether you're an athlete, a coach, an administrator. It's about a change in the system so that we don't have to feel like we can't say anything. Like, this is about humanity. It's not about sport.
Okay, thank you for that. That is on our website. As you can see, it has a lot of the really good information that we need to remind ourselves of around the rule of two, our responsibility with that, and sharing with the parents. I've had a number of conversations with parents that didn't realize the rule of two existed. And as you from the video, right? It protects everybody, including the coach. So we did have a few questions that were submitted to us that we just wanted to go through with this. And Caroline and Julie, feel free to jump in with any further answers to some of these. But one of the questions was social media. Can my athletes follow, this is from a coach's perspective, or a person in authority, can my athletes follow my personal social media accounts? So I'm going to go with the quick answer, no. It is that simple. It's just no. It's not appropriate. There's too many opportunities for the DMing and just getting too involved in the personal side. From the question two, what if basically the kid's left stranded? What if a parent can't pick up a child from practice? What do you do as the coach? If you're the only athlete in the car and the parent ends up asking you to drive the child home, these are the things when we're asked, we do, like, be practical in these situations. You don't leave a child stranded. You may have other athletes in the car with you, your own children. That's fine. There's not now the one-on-one situation, along with just have the child or yourself phone the parent. keep them on the phone while you're driving them. There's ways to have some reasonable safety measures put in place when you're left in those somewhat emergency situations. But it's not okay to just say all the time, oh yeah, the parent asked me to drive them home. There does need to be appropriate respect of the rule of two, and not to just come into that normalization of, oh yeah, well, I drive them all the time, because that is a violation of the rule. So just keep in mind that there's ways to set up some safeguards if you're in that situation. Question 3, we have a group chat for the team, but what if an athlete sends a direct message to the coach? In those situations, you can reply with also copying another coach, another adult, another PIA. You can also, if it's appropriate, it may be a general question, you put it back in the group chat. But just keep in mind, no matter what you're replying, there has to be the appropriateness around your answer, keeping it professional, and just not getting too involved personally with those comments and replies. And then number 4 is a similar question. It's late at night. There's some questions regarding the volleyball in the group chat team. It's simple. If it's a reply that needs to go in, it's a scheduled change for the morning, it's something that is happening right away, then you would answer it. Again, it's something that you have to really keep in mind. It's like, I don't need to answer it tonight. I can answer the question in the morning. Again, it would be in the group chat to the team. So really be respectful of not getting too late and outside of reasonable times to communicate, even if it's within the group chat. And the same thing would apply, like always keep it as far as like, those are also the rules that your club has set up that are very safe in order of how you communicate with your group. There's other adults and the supervisors, your PIAs within that group chat. There's never that one-on-one communication. This chart here, open and observable environments, rule of 2, this is on Volleyball Canada's website. So there are resources on OVA's and Volleyball Canada's, along with the link to the video. In the new year, the athlete education pieces will also be coming out. So we really need to do our role of sharing that with our members and keeping them informed of these rules to keep them safe. And that comes back to a question that I had in the chat, who's responsible for doing this? We all are. But just remember, as a club leader and as administrator, there is the responsibility to follow all of the OVA policies and procedures, which includes also the Volleyball Canada and the Pan Canadian. Those things are back to what Caroline was talking about. We must be using approved members. So she mentioned the Sport Lomo. The approved members is going through that same process within MRS. So our staff are managing that and making sure that your PIA members within your club are approved. Please pay attention if you are getting emails that there may be some members that are still missing a course or a requirement, that we do need that, and that they should not be participating until they have completed those eligibility requirements by the role of the club leader, our referees that have it, and also the club leader. We mentioned there's the duty to report under the UCCMS, and there's the abuse-free sport hotline, all those ways to report those. So do we have any questions? It's a lot of information, for sure. You want to check our chat? Okay, great. Caroline and Julie, is there anything else you wanted to cover off on our safe sport piece?
Yeah, nothing comes to mind. I think you've covered it well. Certainly the duty to report is a good thing to mention there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to talk a bit about some of the code of conduct that's happening at our tournament, so feel free to stay on, or also, yeah, if you need to drop off. But thank you for joining us. And if you do have any questions for Volleyball Canada, don't hesitate to send them to us. We always like to, Caroline and Julie know they get a lot of questions from us. So we appreciate that.
Not a problem at all.
Yeah. So, and thank you for taking on this important role in our sport. It's been a big game changer for sure.
Oh, thank you.
So I just wanted to cover off a bit. This comes from our competitions team, and we just wanted to be really transparent about some things that are happening. And then some of the tools that we have that we do look to combat some of these, but also we need your help. We have had a large growth, so there's always challenges that comes with growth, but no matter what, we really want to have that safe environment for everyone to participate in. So we have had a big spike in the increase in our discipline and complaints of conduct on site at events. So we've had 4 weekends of play, and you can see from our list here, we've had various code of conduct that really is not, it's not kind, and is in violation, to be straight out blunt about it. So one in particular, at facilities, please, we need your help from the coaches, from the parents. We have already had some facilities saying they don't want us back. There has been some vandalism and some, just not care and respect for those facilities. So as all the clubs, too, that also could impact where your club coach trains on a regular basis. So we do have to keep in mind of the care for the facilities while the teams are on site. Unfortunately, we've just had some terrible comments and some slurs that have been made across the net and through the net, in the stands, to players on the court. We have been very clear with referees about this same list of items and utilizing purple card. So it may even be because some of that's happening between spectators, which also may be athletes not on the court, parents not on the, that are in the stands, to players on the court. So if things happen during a match, the referees, we're really asking them to utilize the purple card. That is a tool that we've put out there. We've also, the behavior towards referees has not been great. And we're also finding an increase in, we call it the chirping, but yeah, just like the banter is getting a little offside between the athletes of opposing teams. So it's really, it is poor sportsmanship. It's really bordering on that. And that has not been, it's just taking away for some of the experience of some of the teams participating. Just again, ignoring the at facilities, not even paying attention to what custodians are asking, taking the chairs into the gymnasiums where they're not allowed there. And then some of the facilities have very strict rules because then the floors get ruined. So it goes on from there. So we just need some help, and we just want to make sure also, if you do have an incident and you're hosting, don't hesitate to contact the OVA event hotline. If you do need to immediately eject someone from the facility and they're not leaving, it's 911. They're trespassing now. The permits are under our association, the clubs, and ours. So if someone isn't behaving with our code of conduct, they don't need to be on site. They're now trespassing. If there's an incident report to be made, the link is on here. We have our discipline and complaints policy. And if you do have any questions, Jennifer Harkness is our, she intakes all of these and goes through that. So they did ask me to point that out, and then they wanted me to add in this. As this is what we were saying, there gets to be a little too much of the booing and the taunting, heckling, and different just disrespectful behavior. That has been unfortunate. So next meeting will be in the new year. We will be covering off some concussion, Rowan's Law review. And if there's any topics, please email them into us. We're happy to add them. And we will be going from there as far as some more town halls and information to support your operations. And thank you very much. And I have a feeling there might be a few questions. Okay, I'm just gonna pick up a question in here. Okay, so the question is, would the club leaders be informed? The quick answer is yes. So if the question is in the code of conduct violations that are happening on site, yes. Now, we did have a club that stepped right in and they actually dealt with sanctioning, and it was actually quite serious. They did suspend the couple athletes that were involved in some of the conduct. But also there is times where we don't know who it is. Like, so we do have those, sometimes we get into those difficulties as well. So sometimes it takes us a while to figure out who it is. And sometimes even a spectator, like, it's just not even possible to know. So sometimes we just need to just nip the behavior, that's it, get done with it, and be able to enjoy the day for everyone there. And the other question is, yes, this presentation and recording will get posted. There will be links on the website. Also, I'm pretty sure it'll be distributed via an email to the club leaders after we're done this. So, and with that, I would like to thank you very much for joining us. If you have any further questions and you think of them later, don't hesitate to send them in to us. So with no other questions, thank you very much for joining us. And thank you again to our guests.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys.